Can't be the only one who loves to see behind the scenes of how stuff actually works in a business, especially when it comes to how the money works. In the spirit of sharing, I'm going to show you exactly how much money I make online and exactly how I manage it, how I account for expenses, how I account for taxes, and how much I take from it personally. First thing I recommend anyone who is making any kind of money online do, or running any kind of business, is ensure that you are saving enough money for tax ahead of time. I use Monzo as my business bank account for everything I do on TikTok, and I have an automation set up in the Monzo app that allocates 25% of all of my income every single month and puts it into this tax pot. And at the end of every month, I look at all of the expenses for the month and all of my deductions, and then I will move the money out of this tax pot and I'll put it into another bank account where I'll be saving it for my end of year tax return. And that just makes it a little bit harder to be tempted to dip into this tax pot for any reason if I move it out of this bank account at the end of every month and I move it into a different bank altogether that I don't have access to on my phone. I then track absolutely all of my money manually in a spreadsheet. I do use software like Xero to help me with my bookkeeping, but I find that actually going through the manual process and inputting exactly how much money you've made every month, exactly what your expenses are, and exactly what your cash position should be stops you from overspending or just not having conscious thought around money in your business. This is what my spreadsheet of income and expenditure looked like for last year. I've got a new one that I have started for January, but you can see here I've got targets for how much money I wanted to make every single month, a target budget for expenses and what I wanted to be taking as profit. And then I have a section over here where I have got what I actually made in income, what I actually spent in expenses, and what my actual profits for the year were. All of that information pulls from the tabs you can see along the bottom here. So this was month 12. This was what happened in December. I have what my target income was for the month, and then what I actually made in the month of December and what my total expenses are. You can see my opening cash balance and my closing cash balance. I then had set myself a budget, this is obviously incorrect, of how much I wanted to make from digital products, and also I wanted to sell some stuff on eBay in December that I didn't end up doing. And you can see what I actually made in December from digital products. And then I have a section here for all of my expenses. In December, I spent money on marketing. This was things like Zoom and Klaviyo subscriptions. I have got my cost of goods, that's my Stan Store subscription, insurance, bank account, my Shopify for my website, etc. But there's also a section for any costs of goods if you've got physical products. Then I've got an allocation here for taxes, how much needs to be saved for corporation tax for the month from what I made, and how much would need to be saved if I made any kind of personal withdrawal from the business. I made a personal withdrawal in December of £200. That meant that I actually had £132.50 to spend. Because of that £200 I took, I needed to put £67.50 away for taxes. And the final part of my monthly cash management for my business is I just look at, on a daily basis, how much for the month I have spent on each day, and I would input it here when the money leaves the bank. So this is the money from my Monzo. I think I have a bunch of stuff that comes out on the 3rd in terms of subscriptions and insurance. These are all of my marketing subscriptions coming out. So I know exactly what's going on each day. And all of that feeds into this main dashboard here where I tracked all of my cash incoming, my cash outgoing, how much cash I generated each month, and my cash balance, because we all know cash is king, my total income for the year, how the cash flow was looking as a chart, how my monthly income looked as a chart, and then what I needed to have available in tax pots. So how much I needed to save for the business and how much I needed to save personally based on what I took out of the company. I think it's important to say that I am not an accountant. Like, I have been so bad with financial management in the past, and it has cost me thousands and thousands of pounds in mistakes. But I find this system of being so conscious and so aware of exactly what's coming in and exactly what's going out, and particularly how much money you need to allocate for tax, just relieves that kind of heavy feeling on your shoulders that you can get when you feel like you're not fully in control of your finances. I think it's a huge misconception that if you get an accountant, they will help you manage all of your money. And that's just not the case. Yes, they can provide you advice and guidance on what you should be doing, but you're the only one that is responsible for your money. and you are ultimately responsible if you do something wrong. So I always believe that you can and you should do this. You should be looking at the money. It is an absolute priority for you. You should learn how to do it and manage it in a spreadsheet, in Excel, and get familiar with these tools and this kind of financial management software, because it's so empowering once you do that.